Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to be talking about a project I've been working on for the past several years, off and on, mostly off, but then some brief periods of on. The project in question is a financial analyzer, kind of aiming to do things like analyze spending, budgeting, investments, all that. I apologize, this video is probably going to seem like a school presentation. I just don't really have the time or desire to edit, this fancy YouTube video. So this is the format I think I'm just going to roll with. Getting into it. High level, basically what I have built is a financial application in a command line interface. So you can see right here, it's kind of the main menu right now. A lot of different things you can do. I'll explain more later, but you can see high level right now. Analyze your history, load in some data, manage accounts, categories, some investments. So this is kind of how the application looks like, and then most of the interface with it is through this command line. So it's either entering numbers or text to kind of use the application. So it's a Python application. If you're not really familiar with, the software side of this, Python's a very popular coding language, and I kind of just execute it in my command line by calling Python. So you may be saying, like, why would you use a command line interface? I originally had started building kind of an actual application, where it's more buttons and clickable things. And I got pretty damn far on it. Here's two screenshots from it. I guess I can just drag over what it looks like. And yeah, I got pretty far on it. And it is quite usable. The problem I had with this is development time for this is quite slow. I mean, I would spend hours, just figuring out how to do things like use this date selector. It's just very hard to program an application like this. And I just found myself, wasting time on things like buttons and text and formatting. And I've noticed, I just recently switched to this command line interface one. I've noticed the development time is just way, way quicker. So that's kind of why I've moved toward this kind of solution. I do have the code available for this. People were interested in this, but I just don't have the interest to kind of make it look pretty. And I find this to be usable enough. Okay, so why build this? At a high level, I just don't like the idea of financial data being held by a third-party company. I know there's budget analyzers where you can sign in through Plaid or something and have them do all this analysis for you. I just personally want all my data, to be mine. And also, I think it's a good investment in time because, you're going to spend money for the rest of your life. You're going to make money and spend money for the rest of your life. I'm on the younger side, so I find it's a good investment because I know I'm going to be budgeting and doing this thing for the rest of my damn life. So why not build a tool that I enjoy using and I find, is useful. The last reason, I like coding. Simple as that, I've been spending a lot of time on this, but it's also enjoyable for me. So it's kind of just, fun side project to do. So what are kind of like the goals, or what did I really want to get out of an application like this? The main thing is probably this point 2. I want it to be able to have very specific spending categories. A lot of applications like Mint, they do a good job at categorizing, is the food expense, is the shopping. But to me, spending on fast food versus a night out at a nice restaurant versus grocery, those are 3 different things. They're all in that big category of food, but it's 3 very different spendings. Or another example is like shopping. You know, I have a lot of hobbies, so I like to track where my money is going on shopping. Is it going to clothing? Is it going to some other hobby I have? And I just haven't found that in one of those third-party applications, this kind of niche tracking of categories. And yeah, point three, I kind of like, you know, an all-in-one solution where I can also do things like, you know, personal wealth management. How are my investments doing? And is my wealth growing through account balances on the rise? And I haven't really found a solution that does these both things, you know, the budgeting, spending side, as well as the wealth management side. So yeah, kind of alluded to this, but like, I'm fully aware companies exist that do this for you. Example would be Mint. However, I mean, as the time this video is being made, they're shutting down in about 30 days. So I mean, that's a case in point to building your own solution with your own data. You know, they have all this data, and it's a great product, but they can just close their doors, and then boom, you're back at square one. So that's kind of a checkbox towards actually, you know, building your own solution versus having some company kind of manage this for you. So yeah, talked about this a little bit, but yeah, it's a Python command line interface application. Just kind of interface through the keyboard, no buttons, no fancy stuff. And yeah, a big thing with this application is data does have to be loaded in manually. So all my financial accounts, you know, every month they have an option to download statements, and all of them pretty much support CSV files. So every month, basically, I just spend about 15 to 30 minutes going through my accounts, downloading them, putting them in the right folder, and that's how the upload process really works for this data. As opposed to Mint, where you sign in and then boom, it's automatically pulling all that data. So this is the largest turnoff for most users. Most users don't even want to do that effort of 30 minutes each month to get the data. I don't really get that. You know, it's not really this big time sink for me, and I also like having the data as a backup. You know, and on top of the post processing I do on the data to put it in a backend. I also have that raw format data for all history foreseeably. So that's kind of an appeal for me. But yeah, I've talked to people, and most people just don't want to do this. So this is the kind of largest turnoff for most users, why they wouldn't want to use this kind of application. Okay, so just a quick example of the data download process. This is my Venmo. It's really simple for Venmo. You just find the month. Hey, January. Download CSV. It's going to download. And then boom, I have all my data. So it's very, very simple to download. Okay, so once I have that CSV data, I essentially just have this folder directory with each month in it. So for example, let's look at December. I basically just have all these CSV files in the right folder for the right year, 2023, monthly statements, December. And this is how my program finds the data for each month. So it's a little hard-coded in, but this is kind of the best solution I've found for retrieving all those CSV data and storing them. So yeah, the program just searches, and you know, here's my Venmo that I downloaded. Okay, so now let's do a little live demo as promised, and actually use the thing. So you can see, you know, I load it up. you're going to have to change this file path to point to your database file. You can see it's kind of hard-coded in based on my PC, so you can edit this in the code to change it to whatever your file system has. Then it's going to try to initialize all these different tables that I have in the database file, and you can see since mine's already created, they already exist. And then I have for new users, it tries to insert some dummy data just so stuff down here works. But yeah, I think that fails since I have data in there already. Okay, so let's look at my category tree, which, as I explained, is kind of the main reason I did design this application. So let's print it out. So everything is based off this tree structure, as in, I think the best example is back to food and drink. We have this master category, this parent category, food and drink. And then under that category, well, I have all these subcategories: grocery, liquor store, bars, eating out, caffeine. I drink a lot of caffeine, so I like to track that. And then you can go even deeper. Under eating out, was it just a fast food expense, or was it a restaurant? That was the example I had in the presentation. And then, yeah, a ton of other things. Transportation, car insurance. Was it like an Uber, airplane tickets, housing, rent, energy, internet? You can really add any category you want and get as deep as you want in this tree. So this, I think, is the real power of this application. Being able to make this custom category tree that you can perform analysis against. I've even thought for businesses, this thing can track profits too, under income. So I'm curious if, I'm sure there's way better commercial solutions for an actual business. But I've been curious about if a business could even track kind of sales and expenses through this category tree. So yeah, this is the real power of the application. I see this highly customizable tree. So yeah, within managed categories, you can just add categories, print categories. But then, yeah, keyword management is another thing I didn't talk about. But keywords are essentially how I perform my automatic categorization when I load in data. So let's use the example, food, easy example. Let's say eating out. If that category transaction description has the word Chipotle in it, basically I'm automatically going to put it as an eating out expense. Saves me effort from automatic categorization. What else? I can show balance history per account. I added some sections for retirement modeling, showing kind of a high-level balance review, loading data, kind of basically this thing is going to prompt you for a year and a month. And since it's February right now, I don't have any accounts in there, but let's do a month I do have accounts for. Okay, so now for an example with data, I'm going to do last month, January. So boom, that easy. You can see up here kind of the files that it found. So this is all the files I have in that folder corresponding to 2024 January. And you can see kind of every CSV file it found a relevant account for, and then was able to load in the transactions. And then I have some PDFs that it was unable to parse because I haven't figured out PDFs yet. But then just kind of lists all the transactions that are loaded with the relevant account, kind of the transaction description, and the amount. The date is just messed up because I was editing the files, but usually that looks nice and pretty like these. So then after that, we can kind of categorize the statement. So boom, basically automatically applied categories based on what the description has. So this one, insurance, I have that tied to car insurance. What else? Central market, I have that tied to grocery. I think American Airlines, I have tied to travel, and so on. And then anything it was unable to match, it kind of assigns this NA category, at which point you can go into manual categorization mode. So let's do yes, and let's just prompt for all categories, and boom. Now you can just go through all your transactions and say, hey, that was a caffeine transaction. Boom, shopping, another shopping, caffeine, restaurant, airplane, and so on. So this way you can kind of catch anything that the program didn't automatically categorize. So let's quit this and suspend categorization, and just do a final print kind of what we have loaded. And we can even sort it. So now it just sorted it by amount, from high to low. And then, yeah, if you noticed, after we loaded in, some new options basically came in the menu. So we can either save this to a CSV or save it to the database. So I'm not going to save it since I already have this data loaded in, but at this point you can kind of save it to the database for further analysis. Okay, and then yeah, once you have all the data in there, it's no useful just to have all these transactions categorized. You actually want to be able to analyze it and kind of see where your money's going. So I have this submenu, Analyze Spending History, right here, where we can kind of perform that analysis. So one I found very helpful is search. I can basically search based on keyword and description, based on category, or based on a date range. And this is really helpful for kind of debugging any program loading, or yeah, just curious, what I've spent on a certain category. Another one is graphing category data. So let's graph my eating out expenses throughout time. So this is kind of the graph it produces. I haven't fixed this y-axis yet, but essentially, if we take this as our current month, February, this is months previous and how much we've spent in that category. So you can kind of see some variation. Looks like I spent a little more in summer and a little less last winter. So this is really useful for kind of tracking, hey, am I spending more or less of a certain category? Let's do something like rent, which ideally should be constant. You have the same rent cost each month, so this is the same. Another feature I have is kind of this executive summary function, which kind of tracks categories across time. I kind of want to fix this because the way I have the data right now is per month, but this is kind of date ranges, and I think I want to fix it to more discrete month ranges. But anyway, it's kind of hectic, but you can kind of see over time all these high-level categories and how those expenditures are going. So yeah, just some other things in this section quick. You can add a note to a transaction if you want to kind of record, hey, what was this? It says Amazon in the description, and I know it's for shopping, but what did I actually buy there? So that's kind of what I use that for. And then updating transaction categories. Say you added a category, updated it, and you want to mass update transactions. You can do that. And then this is a feature I've wanted to work on. But if you don't know, a Sankey diagram is essentially a diagram like so. Let me get this a little better. Okay. So it's basically just kind of a breakdown of your expenses and incomes kind of in this format. And I think, this would be very easy to make, I think, based on my category tree. Because that's essentially what this is, right? Your high-level categories will be right here. And then food, as I showed earlier, it would kind of break down into subcategories. Same with incomes. You can have all these sub-incomes. Say you have 2 jobs, you want to see which is which. So I think I want to work on kind of producing this graph, and I think with the way the data is stored, this would be very possible. Yeah, I'm just trying to put this out there so people are aware of it. I would love to get some people who are good at coding to use this full time to manage their expenses. I think, I got it to a point where I can use it and record data, but I like to work on other projects, so this really hasn't been my priority. But I would love to get other people using it, finding errors, adding more support for different kinds of accounts, all that. So yeah, I would like to highlight that this is on GitHub. It actually, about a year ago I did try to get some people interested on it. So there are some actions on this GitHub, but it quickly died as I don't really have the support needed to manage an open source community. But yeah, I kind of have some instructions on running it. Talked about this. You're gonna have to edit this path to run it, and then I talked about the folder structure and how to load in data. But yeah, if you'd love to clone it, run it on your machine, start using it, this is the best starting point. So here's the link, but I'll also link it in this video. But yeah, thanks for watching this video. Hopefully this video will kind of put more eyes on this, and I'd love to have even a couple people just start using this full time so we could get some more features in there. And I'm not even a programmer by profession, so some real programmers getting eyes on this would be very, very useful. So yeah, thanks for watching.